Hi guys, David O'Sullivan here, and this video I'm giving you my spoiler review of Prometheus. That's right, this is my second part in my Ridley Scott Alien series. I've already done my first part on the original 1979 classic Alien. I did a deconstructed classic of that, like a scene by scene, like an analytical breakdown of the entire movie. So if you haven't seen that and you want to check that out, be sure to go ahead and check that out up on my channel right now, my Alien Deconstructing a Classic. But in this second part of my Ridley Scott Alien series, I'm going to be looking at the 2012 prequel to the original Alien. It is of course Prometheus, the kind of predecessor to the new Alien Covenant, which will of course be following on from where Prometheus left off and continuing this kind of new prequel era of Alien movies, tying into the original Alien film. But as I said, in this video it's going to be my spoiler-filled thoughts on Prometheus. Not as analytical and in-depth as the Alien video, but I am going to be talking spoilers in this review. So here we go, my second part of my Alien series, my review of Prometheus. Enjoy. 2012's Prometheus is a science fiction mystery adventure and a prequel to the original Alien film. Directed once again by Ridley Scott, who returns to the franchise after starting it all off with Alien back in 1979. Prometheus stars Noomi Rapace as a lead character, Elizabeth Shaw, as well as Michael Fassbender, Guy Pearce, Idris Elba, Logan Marshall-Green, and Charlize Theron. Now before I get into my spoiler-filled review of Prometheus, what I first have to say is I actually like Prometheus. I know it's not the popular opinion. A lot of people really don't like Prometheus, and there are some that really hate it and don't think it's that good at all. But although I can see where people are coming from in terms of, not liking the film, I think that what is really at the crux of why people don't like this film is that they think of it as an Alien film. And it is part of the Alien franchise. It is a prequel to the original Alien film. But really, I think if you take this as its own kind of separate, standalone film, it's actually pretty good. I'm not saying this is an amazing film. It's not without its flaws. But I think if you take it as an Alien film, it's going to be a little bit underwhelming and disappointing because, it's not really an Alien movie. It's more of its own separate, standalone film. And that's what I like about Prometheus. I like the fact that it's set in that same universe. It deals with the same kind of mythology, but it's a very different film. I reject the notion of when people criticize films just because they do something different. It's not necessarily because they're a bad film. It's just like, oh, it's not like the other movies in the franchise, therefore it's rubbish. I'm like, I reject that idea. I like sequels or prequels where they take the mythology and they take it in a different direction, or they explore it in a new and different way. And that's what I liked about Prometheus. It had to deal with the same kind of things. It explored more of the engineers, more of the kind of the origins of the kind of classic story. And this is like the very beginning of the story. It goes right back to millions of years ago in the opening scene there. And I like the fact that it felt different. It was still set in that same world, in that same universe, dealt with the same kind of mythology, but it felt like its own movie, and it didn't feel like it was trying to be like anything else. It didn't feel like any of the other movies in the series, and I appreciated the film for that. I like the fact that it took it in a different direction. Obviously, a load of people didn't like what they did with Prometheus, and they're kind of making it more like the kind of classic Alien films now, which I'm not against, and I'm really looking forward to Alien Covenant. And I like the fact that it seems like they're going to kind of combine what worked in Prometheus with, or what at least what people liked in Prometheus with, what people liked about Alien and Aliens, and combining it into like a greatest hits of the franchise. It seems like that's what Covenant's going to be. It's going to please fans of all the great Alien films, I think, as well as pleasing the fans of the original Prometheus, of which Covenant is kind of a follow-up to. But as I said, I do like Prometheus, so I just had to get it out of the way to say that I do really enjoy Prometheus, and I think it's a good film. It's in the same universe as Alien, but it's not a direct prequel to the original film, even though it was, called a prequel. And obviously a lot of people were confused because they're like, is this a prequel to Alien, or is this its own thing? It didn't have Alien in the title. But, obviously a lot of people were confused. They didn't know whether it was an Alien film or not. Obviously Covenant's got Alien in the title now, so it's a lot more obvious. But, it's I think it makes sense for them not to put Alien in the title, because they could have called it Alien Prometheus maybe, like they're doing with Alien Covenant. But at the same time, as I said, it's not a direct prequel to the original Alien. It is set before the events of Alien. And there are some hints and some ties and connections to Alien, but they are minimal and don't play a huge part in the film. So I think that's what disappointed a lot of people. They're expecting a true, direct prequel to Alien, and this movie wasn't really that. I feel like Covenant will be more of a prequel to Alien, and then obviously the follow-up to Covenant will be more of a direct prequel leading into the original Alien, whereas Prometheus was more of its own thing. And I'm personally really glad they did this, because, you know, at the time I saw Prometheus, I don't think I'd ever seen the entirety of Alien from beginning to end. So I was worried that, am I going to be able to understand and enjoy this movie? You know, I know a lot about Alien, I've seen a lot of the film, but, you know, am I going to enjoy this movie to its full potential? Because I'm not like a die-hard Alien fan. But I was pleasantly surprised that, you know, it wasn't, you know, exactly like Alien. It wasn't like, you know, people that didn't like Alien or, you know, didn't know about Alien could still enjoy the film. As soon as I saw the movie, as soon as it began, my worries were quickly put to rest, because Prometheus, it was more a separate, standalone film that can be enjoyed on its own. You don't have to see the original film. You know, although some people didn't like the fact, obviously, that Prometheus wasn't more closely intertwined with Alien, I think it was a good idea for Prometheus to be its own thing. I like the fact that Ridley Scott wanted to make a film that was different and could stand on its own, while still being vaguely connected to the original. And, you know, as I said, as soon as the movie began, even though it's still set, obviously, in that same universe, I like the fact that it felt more like a kind of this epic sci-fi mystery adventure film. It was very different to Alien. It's not really a horror. There's kind of some horror elements in there. I think the horror elements are kind of the downfalls. There's a particular scene, which I'll talk about later, which, you know, is by far the worst scene in the film, and you know, that's a scene that I just can't defend because it is stupid and makes no sense. But aside from that, you know, you know, it's not really a horror movie. It's sci-fi. It's more of this epic sci-fi. There's mystery elements in there. It's kind of an adventure film almost. It's similar to Alien in that it's set largely in one location. They go to this planet. They're there pretty much the whole film, and that's really it. They don't really go anywhere else. Not much else happens. So it's similar to Alien in that way, and that's not like, you know, going to all those different planets and planet hopping and going crazy. But at the same time, it's not like a suspense horror thriller as much as, say, Alien was. Obviously, you know, renowned filmmaker Ridley Scott returns to the genre he helped define, and he proves to us once again in this film why he's so good at making science fiction films. And you know, if you know anything about me, you'll know that I'm a big fan of Ridley Scott. He's one of my favourite directors. I'll probably put him in my top 5 or at least top 10, because he's had some hits, he's had some misses, but I feel like Ridley Scott could do so many different things, and every time he makes a movie he puts his all into it, and even if it's not a great end result, you know, I still admire the fact that he went in, you know, he tried to do something different. Like I said, he's done very different things. He's done sci-fi, you know, he's done, like, you know, Alien, Blade Runner, he's done an historical epic in Gladiator, he did Thelma and Louise. I think a lot of people tend to forget that it was a Ridley Scott film. He's even done a rom-com as well, that Russell Crowe one, which I don't think is that great. But, you know, I still admire the fact that he tried to do something different and out of his wheelhouse there. I mean, you know, he's not good at rom-coms. I think we know that from that movie. But, you know, I like the fact that he's tried to do different things over the years. But for me, Ridley Scott is at his best when he's doing science fiction. By far my favourite Ridley Scott film, and one of my favourite films of all time, is Blade Runner, and shortly, you know, closely followed by Alien, and also Gladiator, of course. Again, you know, this movie proves to us why he's so good at doing sci-fi, because obviously he directed the original Alien film, and I'm really glad he decided to come back to direct Prometheus, because he'd only ever directed the original, and that was it. He didn't direct any of the sequels. But I'm glad he's come back to these prequel films, because obviously they're prequels to his original film. So I like the fact that Ridley Scott's at the helm of these new prequel movies, and being a big fan of Ridley Scott as a filmmaker, it really felt like, you know, this film was made for him, and I couldn't imagine anybody else doing it. You know, watching the film, you can tell that it was directed by someone who really, you know, knows what they're doing and is comfortable doing it. And of course, the opening to the film is stunning. There are so many great visual moments throughout this film, and that's one of the best things about Ridley Scott as a filmmaker. Even if you don't love Ridley Scott's movies, you can always appreciate his films from a visual standpoint, because they always look just epic, beautiful, stunning, and Prometheus is not an exception. It looks really great. You know, despite being kind of a fast-paced film, there are a lot of kind of long, establishing, wide shots. These big, epic shots are extremely epic and bold in scope, and really lend perspective to the grand nature of the film. That's what I really like about it, because Alien is more contained. and it is more of a kind of a small scale suspense thriller, whereas Prometheus really opens this world up to us and really kind of explores the mythology, and it is a lot more epic and it's on a lot more of a grander scale. It's almost kind of biblical, and just, you know, the music is like orchestral and it's got this epic kind of tone to it, which I really like. And of course, there are many science fiction films that come out nowadays, and it is a really popular genre, but despite this, I feel like Prometheus still manages to feel fresh and different from most other sci-fis that are released, you know, nowadays. And although Prometheus undoubtedly adheres to many of the codes and conventions of classic science fiction films, it's still a very unique and distinctive film that I think stands apart from being a typical genre movie. For example, though it utilises many of the elements seen in the science fiction genre, it has these underlying themes involving religion and creation, which make it more interesting and thought-provoking to watch, as you're constantly thinking about the film's kind of deeper meanings and questioning like the implications of the various themes intertwined into the story. And that's what I really liked about Prometheus. It dealt with these kind of these big questions and ideas, these kind of almost kind of biblical undertones to it about kind of creation, destruction, creation from destruction. You know, that opening scene where the engineer destroys himself to create humanity. And I love all those kind of things in movies, you know, where it's kind of got all these kind of these ideas and these kind of these themes and messages that they're kind of hinted at and are explored. And I really liked how all that was kind of intertwined into movies. It's another thing again that helped it kind of separate it from the other Alien movies. It wasn't just a big kind of like crazy kind of monster movie or action film. It had these kind of themes that it explored that kind of helped separate it from the other films and gave it these kind of like biblical kind of undertones, exploring these themes like, you know, God's creation, who created this, where did we come from, you know, all that kind of thing, which I really liked. And of course, acting wise, all the actors and the talented cast turned in brilliant performances that helped to kind of deepen their characters and make them seem more real and grounded, despite the fact that, you know, almost the entire film is set in space and on an alien world. Oh, despite this, we are on this kind of larger-than-life journey with these characters, and as a result, the film comes across as more genuine and believable in a way, as we are able to relate to the events, these kind of crazy events of these films through these characters. I don't know if all of the performances hold up, you know, rewatching the movie, some performances do feel a little artificial, do feel a little scripted. I do think all the actors are really great. Of course, Noomi Rapace plays the character, Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, a scientist who, after discovering the possible existence of an alien race, sets off on an expedition into deep space with a crew of fellow scientists and explorers. And, you know, after a rather lackluster role in 2011's Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows, a film I liked, but, you know, Noomi Rapace, she was in that movie but had like a bit part, you know, and I was looking forward to seeing her in that movie, and she was kind of wasted. She didn't really get anything to do. The role that she had didn't really give her much to do. However, Prometheus gave her the break of a much larger leading role, and Rapace does a great job, I think, in this movie. She proves that she's more than capable of leading a film, and she grabs the chance of showing mainstream audiences how good of an actress she really is, because I think she's Swedish, I believe. You know, she's not like an English or American actress. She's been in a lot of foreign movies. I think she was in... Was she in The Girl with the Truck and Tattoo? One of those movies. I always get so confused because there's so many of them. She was in one of those films. But yeah, it was really cool to see her as a lead in a big and mainstream American kind of a genre movie, and I think she did a really great job. You know, being the central character in the film, we experience almost all of the unfolding events through her character, and Rapace really sells it in the role. You know, we buy into her character, and we understand the choices and the decisions she makes, and as a result, the film comes across as more believable. And also, the fact that the lead character in a big blockbuster movie is a female character is such a testament to this film, I think, and it shows that a female-led blockbuster can work, and, you know, credit to Rapace for doing such a good job of the role. However, of course, for me, the best thing about this film, and the one who steals the show, is unequivocally Michael Fassbender, you know, who just steals every scene he's in as the android David, you know. And sometimes I'm not a big fan of robot characters in sci-fi films. You know, a lot of the time they can come across as a bit bland and boring, but, you know, that is not the case with David. You know, the character of David, although an android, is probably the most interesting, complex, and multi-layered character in the whole film, which is probably not saying a lot about the other human characters, but it's because of just how great he is that he really just stands out and steals the show. You know, he's a consistently intriguing character, so you never really know what he's thinking or what he's going to do next, and he has his own agendas, and a lot of the time he does what he wants and doesn't tell anyone what he's really up to. Michael Fassbender also nails it in the role with his extremely convincing performance. I love the fact that Michael Fassbender is now appearing in more and more big movies. I'm so glad, because in my opinion, he's a fantastic actor. He's one of my favourite actors working today. He's able to play such extremely kind of diverse and different roles, all equally as good as one another. This also applies to his role as David in Prometheus, in which he embodies the character so convincingly with his remarkable performance. And as a result, he just steals every scene he's in. He's just so good. But as well as all the great performances from the cast, the sci-fi elements still stand out and make a significant impression in the film. All of the alien creatures were definitely a highlight, but fascinating to watch whenever they were on screen, especially the godlike engineers, who have just a magnetic screen presence. And the CGI effects were also top-notch. And the extraordinary visual effects were blended seamlessly with the surrounding environment so well, it was often hard to tell what was real and what was CGI, and that gave the film, I think, a much greater sense of realism. Scenes with the Prometheus ship and the holograms and all that in particular, I think, were definitely standout moments. However, out of all the intense alien encounters throughout the film, the highlight has to be the finale of the film, in which, everything that happens throughout the film all leads into the finale, in which everything builds up into this kind of tense, thrilling, action-packed climax, and an extraordinary visual and sensual experience, heightened so much by the almost kind of operatic and biblical sound. The sound design is so great in this movie. I think even people that don't love the film they have to give it credit for the sound design and the music. I think it's really great. It really adds to a big impact to the event, especially in the cinema. I remember watching it back in the cinema in 2012, and again, the other week when I watched it in the double feature with Alien. And as I mentioned, the sound design is really incredible, and the music is so great. It's so epic and operatic, this biblical kind of orchestral music almost. And the finale of the film is so great. I think, obviously, when the engineers escaping is going to kind of just destroy humanity. And of course, we got Captain Yannick there, played by Idris Elba. I know Idris Elba in this movie, so good. Whatever the pro's picking up a life form. What the hell is going on down there? I mean, I've quoted this character so many times throughout the years, and it's so funny as well because he's got such kind of like a posh British accent. He's playing this kind of like he's got this kind of deep Southern American accent in this movie, and I think he's really great as the captain. He doesn't get like that much to do, but I think he does a really great job in that role. And of course, at the end of the film, the Prometheus ship is going to escape. It's going to destroy Earth. And I love the fact that he's just going to do what it takes. And of course, it is actually foreshadowed. I picked this up again watching it in the cinema the other week, where it's hinted at when he has that conversation with Elizabeth, and it's like, do whatever you'll have to do, or he says to Elizabeth, I'll do whatever it takes to not let any of that get back to Earth. So when we do get that moment, when he does sacrifice himself, you buy into it. You're like, wait, hang on, are they really just going to go and kill themselves now? But you buy into his motivation, because he's made it clear that his job, he'll do whatever it takes to ensure none of it gets back to Earth. That even comes above him getting back to Earth, is him making sure Earth is safe and none of it gets back there. So when he does decide to sacrifice himself, and his pilot's there to destroy the engineer ship, it's a really great, impactful moment. And like I said, it's enhanced even more so with the sound design and the music. It's so kind of just intense. It provides it's really big impacts, especially like I said in the cinema. It's just so great. Just the epic, really loud sound and music. It really works. However, in terms of criticism, if I was to criticise film, there were certain questionable character decisions, I have to admit, and actions in the film that weren't very realistic and believable. I've got to talk about, there's these couple of characters, played by Rafe Spall and Sean Harris. I like Rafe Spall and Sean Harris as actors, and I think they're doing a good job in this movie. But, the characters aren't that well written, and they're consistently doing stupid, dumb things throughout the film, and they're acting like idiots, and I'm like, okay, I could give this a pass, but at the same time, these guys are meant to be really professional, like astronauts, scientists, engineers, explorers, like the best of the best. They've gone on this $1 trillion mission to find this planet, and they're like these two idiots. I'm like, really? Like, they're the best of what we have? And it's kind of works in a way because, okay, maybe they're like experts in their field and really kind of geniuses in their field, but they're kind of dicks at the same time. So like, okay, maybe I can kind of buy into that, but like I said, the act's kind of reckless and stupid at times, and it doesn't really make sense. considering they're supposed to be intelligent professionals. And of course, there's that certain point in the film, you all know what I'm going to talk about, that scene, where they find themselves in serious jeopardy, but you can't really feel sorry for them because it was their stupidity that got them into the situation in the first place. Of course, I'm talking about that scene where they discover the alien snake thing there, where the little worms have been kind of mutated by the black goo into these kind of alien snakes. And I get the fact that Milburn is a biologist and he's like really excited by that, but at the same time, he's freaked out by a corpse, like a dead body, but yet he's like, oh my god, he's like so like excited by some alien snake, which is clearly very deadly. Like, I can kind of give it a pass in the original Alien film when it's like an egg, because it's just an egg, it doesn't look dangerous. When it's like a snake, how do you not realise that's going to be dangerous? It's pretty obvious, and he keeps trying to reach it, he keeps trying to touch it. I'm like, what was he trying to do? What did he think was going to happen? That's what I don't get. It's like, okay, I get the fact that maybe he's really excited by kind of these kind of creatures. He's a biologist, but what on earth was he trying to accomplish? What was he doing? What was he trying to do? Trying to stroke the snake or something? Like, what did he think was going to happen? And I get the fact that the creature needs to attack, and it's kind of this horror scene. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of horror, but I do like certain horror films. If you're going to call it alien horror, then I guess Alien is my favourite horror film. Silence of the Lambs maybe, but the thing with Silence of the Lambs and Alien is that they're not really straight up full-on horror movies. They're more thrillers, really, which is one of my favourite genres. But I'm going to have a bit of tangent here, but yeah, this is kind of the only real horror scene in the film, and it's like, okay, I get why they're doing it. They needed to be kind of attacked, have this scene with the creature kind of killing them, and it looks cool, I guess, but it's like, as I said, you can't really feel kind of sorry for them because it was their stupidity that got themselves killed. So it's like, it's kind of what they were asking for. It's like, what did they think was going to happen? But that's really my main criticism with this film. Another criticism I have is that there were some issues in terms of the story. For example, there are certain scenes that do feel slightly disjointed. It sometimes feel like there were parts that were cut out. And a lot of the time there are questions that are left unanswered, which I do like. A lot of criticisms that people have are like, it sets up so many more questions and it doesn't answer anything, but I like the mystery element to the film. Some people may not like the idea that there's too much mystery and not enough concrete answers, but I like the fact that there was mystery and not everything was revealed, because it does allow certain aspects to be kind of further explored in a sequel or sequels. And also the reason that I may feel like certain bits were missing could possibly be due to the fact that I have seen the deleted and extended scenes on the Blu-ray, most of which I actually liked. And although I'm not against them having been cut, I can't help but think about them when I'm watching certain parts of the film, because there's some scenes that are cut, or maybe they're just extensions of scenes really, or kind of alternate versions of scenes, and I'm like, for the most of them, I'm like, I think they should have kept them in the movie. I don't think it's a detriment to the film them not being in there, but there's certain scenes that kind of extend certain moments, where Elizabeth Shaw's on the run from the engineer when he's kind of going after her, which kind of, because it does cut, and then suddenly like he's there, but that bit's kind of extended out a bit. And also the moment when they first wake up the engineer, a lot of people were like, oh, that was a bit kind of underwhelming. Well, in the deleted scenes, the engineer actually talks to them in an alien language, which was pretty cool. I'm not sure, I can't remember if there was any subtitles or we've actually found out what he said, but I think that could have been kept in there. I mean, it works without him not saying anything. We get how he's feeling, he just rips David's head off, and I actually like this moment, going off on a bit of a tangent here, even though the part of the engineer talking was cut out, I think it still works, because again, it's all through kind of his actions, and we get it just from the visuals. And of course, when he rips David's head off, I think it works. I mean, it's funny, it seems like every Alien movie, the android gets ripped in half, or gets his head ripped off, or gets dismembered, which, I just realised it kind of happens in almost every Alien film that's an android, of which I've seen anyway. So I wouldn't be surprised if it happens in the new one, but yeah, I think it works really well, because obviously they're trying to get the engineer to help Mr. Wayland live longer. Mr. Wayland, of course, played by Pearce, and then the engineer is just so disgusted at the fact that their creation have created their own form of life, and he can just sense that David's like an android and that he isn't real, and he just rips his head off, whacks Wayland over the head, and I think it actually works. The guy Pearce, again, this might be another thing that might be a bit distracting and put a lot of people off. I can kind of give it a pass, because it seems a little weird. Guy Pearce playing some guy in his like 90s or 100 years old, however he's meant to be. The reason I think that was the case, and they didn't just cast a really old guy to play him, is because I think, again, this goes into the whole deleted scenes thing. It's not actually on the deleted scenes, but there's a featurette where you see Wayland, played by Guy Pearce, as a young man in this kind of expo, almost giving this kind of this speech. I feel like that should have been in the movie. I don't think it would have had a place in the film, so I can understand why they cut it. But at the same time, if you're not going to have a scene of him when he was younger, why would you cast a young actor to play this really old guy? Because at the first time I saw the movie, I bought into it, but you're watching it again, it does just look like a young guy in really old man makeup. It doesn't look that realistic, that convincing. I think it works perfectly fine. He's not got a massive part in the movie, but I feel like if there was never a plan to put scenes of him when he was younger in the movie, they should have cast an older guy, or they should have just gone ahead and put that scene of him when he was younger in the movie. I think that would have been cool, to see him, oh look, that's when he was younger, and now this is him like really old now. So yeah, that scene wasn't on the scene wasn't in the film, but it is actually on the Blu-rays if you want to see a scene of Guy Pearce as Wayland when he was younger. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on Prometheus. I didn't go as in-depth, analytical as I did with Alien, but Alien was more of a deconstructing a classic. That was more of kind of an analytical, kind of deconstructive kind of breakdown of the whole movie. I don't want to go as in-depth here. But overall, I really enjoy Prometheus. I think it is a real brilliant science fiction film. It's not without its flaws. It does have some little problems here and there, but for the most part, I do really like Prometheus. I like the fact it's different. I like the fact that it stands on its own. It's got an interesting story full of mystery, suspense, lots of intriguing characters. Headlined, of course, by Michael Fassbender's brilliant portrayal of David the android. I cannot wait to see him back in the new movie. I'm so glad they were going to bring just one person back. I'm glad it was Michael Fassbender, because for me, he is by far the best part of the film. I absolutely love him as David. Of course, plenty of thrilling and dramatic sequences in the movie as well. So, all in all, I think Prometheus is actually kind of an extraordinary and gratifying comeback for the Alien franchise, because you haven't seen any of the other sequels, in the wake of Aliens, but I'm pretty sure they were all really bad, So I think Prometheus was actually a pretty good comeback for the franchise, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it's going to go next with Covenant, which I'm actually seeing tonight. As I'm recording this, I'm seeing Alien Covenant tonight, so hopefully I'll get like a first reaction, or maybe I'll just do like a quick spoiler-free review of Covenant after I've seen it, and then I'll probably at a later date maybe do like a spoiler-filled discussion on the movie maybe as well, as like the third part in this Ridley Scott series. So yeah, all in all, I would recommend Prometheus for fans of the science fiction genre, but again, it may divide opinion amongst those passionate to the original Alien. And that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on Prometheus. What do you think about the film? Do you love it? Do you hate it? It seems like it's one of those films where you either love it or hate it. I'm probably more on the love it side of it, but do you like Prometheus or do you not like Prometheus? What do you think about the film? Please let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you like this and you haven't already, make sure to click subscribe to see more, and also check out my other Alien videos if you haven't already. I did like an hour-long deconstructive kind of scene-by-scene breakdown of the original 1979 Alien in my first of my Deconstructing a Classic series. Be sure to check them out if you haven't already. But with that said, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.